The year is 2012, and the industry is still being dominated by what is arguably the most popular genre in all of gaming, the shooter. A genre that has thrived off of the great action movies we all grew up watching. It's a genre that has consistently provided us with the chance to become the very same action heroes we once idolized as children. From the first moments we played with action figures to our very first touch of a controller, we've been conditioned to be the hero of our own battles. However, the games we grew up with glorified these battles, often mimicking some of the most violent and tragic events in history. Despite this, I, like many others, love the genre, whether it's a first-person shooter or a third-person cover-based one. I always find myself coming back to them. But over time, it has become an oversaturated genre. Many of the games within the genre seem to be pushing a pro-war rhetoric, where the protagonist was always portrayed as completely virtuous, and every decision you make while playing that character was inherently for the greater good, no matter the outcome. It was a genre of no consequence. It was a predictable loop, a never-ending cycle that masked the deeper, more uncomfortable realities of war. That is, until one game dared to flip the genre on its head and criticize it directly. This is the legacy of Spec Ops: The Line. On June 26, 2012, Spec Ops: The Line silently hit the shelves. Advertised as a generic military cover shooter, it was easy to overlook, especially since at the time it just seemed like another entry in an already flooded genre. This all led to Spec Ops: The Line showing all of the symptoms of a game destined to be forgotten. But Spec Ops: The Line had something the other games didn't, a powerful message hidden beneath its generic exterior. Instead of glorifying war and the idea of heroism, it dared to question it, and in doing so, it criticized gaming as a whole. Whenever I play Spec Ops: The Line, I can't help but feel something deep down, an emotion that no other game has managed to replicate, and that feeling is dread and anguish. As much as I love the game and constantly praise it, I can't help but feel like every time I play it, I want it to end. But let's start from the very beginning. Spec Ops: The Line didn't just appear from thin air. It's actually a series that can be traced back to the late 90s and early 2000s. However, it never became the household name it hoped it would be. The early entries into the series focused heavily on tactical style gameplay rather than the narrative. This all changed when Spec Ops: The Line began development. The game wasn't just another sequel. It was meant to be a reboot of the series, designed to fully reshape the tone and direction of the franchise. But before Spec Ops: The Line took shape, there was another Spec Ops game in the works back in 2004. This project was led by Rockstar Games, more specifically Rockstar Vancouver, who were responsible for titles such as Bully and Max Payne 3. However, the project got canned and the series went radio silent for years. That is, until December 12, 2009, when Spec Ops: The Line was officially announced, and alongside it, a trailer that showed off both the Dubai setting and the gameplay mechanics. It was originally slated to be released in 2011. But ended up hitting the shelves in 2012. But copies weren't flying off the shelves. No matter how you look at it, the game was a commercial flop. Its sales weren't great and the reception was very mixed. Critics were quick to praise its narrative depth and the way it approached more mature and dark themes, but on the other hand, it was considered underwhelming in terms of its combat. It didn't do much to innovate and push the genre forward. Because of this, the game was sort of left behind and forgotten by the majority of players. But despite the criticism and poor release timing, Spec Ops: The Line was far from the generic shooter that everyone thought it was. Its narrative is so unlike anything ever seen before in the genre, and its storytelling has made it the cult classic that it is today.
How many are alive today? How many will be alive tomorrow?
Spec Ops: The Line has one of the most thought-provoking and psychologically draining stories in all of gaming. But to truly understand the writer's vision, we need to first look into where that inspiration was drawn from. The story deals with the psychological horrors that are intertwined with war. It studies the very fabric of the human psyche as it is battered and torn by the relentless atrocities of man. It's about guilt and shame and the internal struggle of a soldier who wants nothing more than to be the hero of his own story and everyone else's. The narrative and the way it presents itself draws heavy inspiration from different kinds of media, specifically classic film and literature, with the two main ones being Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now and Joseph Conrad's novella Heart of Darkness, which was published in 1899. Both of these works serve as the framework for Spec Ops: The Line. The themes present in Heart of Darkness also heavily inspired Apocalypse Now. Both works delve into the moral, physical, and mental decay of the main character. They showcase how a man can spiral amidst the chaotic nature of war, and how this spiral can unravel and give birth to complete and utter madness, leading to a descent that is all-consuming. In Heart of Darkness, the protagonist Marlowe journeys deep into the Congo rivers and slowly loses his grip on reality as he experiences the horrors of colonialism firsthand. He is searching for a man named Kurtz, who, unbeknownst to Marlowe, has established himself as a god amongst the natives deep into the jungle. The plot of Apocalypse Now actually plays out very similar and has a few overlapping details, but instead it takes place during the Vietnam War and follows an army captain and special intelligence agent named Benjamin Willard, who is sent to assassinate a man named Walter E. Kurtz, a rogue colonel gone mad. In order to reach him, he must embark on a journey deep into the rivers of both Vietnam and Cambodia. While on this journey, Willard starts to become consumed by the very madness he was sent to eliminate. Both of these stories explore the psyche and morals of mankind, and how they can be clouded when confronted by chaos. Spec Ops: The Line is no different. But now, instead of watching or reading about the spiral downward, we are the ones unraveling it. And when faced with decisions of morality, we are the ones who pull the trigger. Violent dust storms rage in Dubai, leaving the city a barren wasteland. The once lavish skyscrapers now loom over the city like silent watchers. They serve as a reminder of a world that has ceased to exist. 6 months before the events of the story, these storms caused a large-scale evacuation of Dubai. The relief efforts were led by the 33rd Infantry Battalion. At the helm was Colonel John Conrad. As the storms continued to rage, the communication with the 33rd was severed, and the world turned its back on Dubai, leaving the 33rd to fend for themselves, and to abandon all of their moral codes simply to survive. 2 weeks prior to the beginning of the game, a radio signal made its way out of Dubai.
Colonel John Conrad, United States Army, has evacuation of Dubai ended in complete failure. Death toll, too many.
That's when the United States military decided to send in Delta Force, a team consisting of 3 men: Captain Walker, Sergeant Lugo, and Lieutenant Adams, a unit whose primary mission was to confirm the status of the survivors and locate Colonel Conrad himself. But what follows is not as simple. After arriving, posing as Walker, you and your team are thrown into violent encounters with deadly insurgents and the 33rd themselves. As time slips away from you in the disorienting storms, the line between good and evil, right and wrong, blur. The chaos of the landscape and the unyielding torrent of violence turn you not into the hero you pretend to be, but into a creature of bloodshed and torment. So deep within the depths of his own unraveling psyche, Walker's wishes of heroism only make matters worse, as he embraces the culture of violence in this hellscape, and turns his back on morality. And with every passing storm, Walker is stripped of his humanity, ultimately leading to his reckless deployment of white phosphorus, a gaseous devil that has no mercy and doesn't care who it touches, whether it be soldiers fighting for a cause they don't believe in, or a mother cradling her child telling them that it's all gonna be okay. The fires burn just the same. And when the smoke eventually clears, it is Walker who stands before the charred remains of the innocent people he sentenced to death. He cannot bear to live with the consequences of his actions, so he snuffs out the truth and replaces it with a lie. He blames it all on the man he came here to find, Conrad. So as Walker and the rest of Delta Force journey deeper into the heart of Dubai, they leave their past reflections behind. There is no going back. From this moment, every step Walker takes sends him deeper into hell. His strides become heavier as the weight of his choices pull him deeper and deeper, until he is all alone and forced to come to terms with what he has done, especially since the man he blamed took his own life before Walker's boots ever touched the sands of Dubai. All of Walker's sins, all of his failures, all of his regrets were blamed on a ghost. And the story ends in the way that all war stories end. It never does. It keeps going and is up to interpretation of what really happened. But no matter the truth, one thing is for certain. The Walker that entered Dubai never left. You still with me? Good, because it's time to shift gears a bit and talk about how the game presents itself through its gameplay and visuals. But before we get into that, almost 100% of you guys are not subscribed. So if you enjoyed the video, remember to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. Now, back to the video. Spec Ops: The Line's gameplay is nothing to rave about, but in my opinion, that's kind of the charm of it. It's as bare bones as it gets. Apart from some environmental destruction, it doesn't do anything to move the needle of innovation, and that's okay. Because the gameplay isn't meant to be the main focus. The narrative is supposed to be front and center, and the gameplay allows the story to shine even brighter in the spotlight. Spec Ops: The Line isn't a traditional shooter. It doesn't want you to be entertained. In fact, it's not even supposed to be fun to play. And to someone not familiar with the game, that might sound weird, but it's true. Almost every shooter is built around the idea of empowerment and heroism. But that's something Spec Ops: The Line doesn't preach. It flips those ideas and turns them against the player. You're supposed to feel uneasy, uncomfortable, and guilty while you play. You're supposed to question the violence that you partake in. You're supposed to question the bullets that come out of your gun. You're even supposed to question your own finger as it heads to pull the trigger. The developers express this through their use of cryptic loading screens that break the fourth wall. And these aren't just hints, they talk directly to you. These messages serve as a wake-up call to the player. It puts the pressure on us, rather than Walker, forcing us to come to terms with what we do within the game. The developer gives us the illusion of choice, but instead, we play a role in perpetuating the very violence that is being criticized. And if we refuse to partake in it, we can't progress in the story. One of the hardest decisions comes in Chapter 13, just as Lugo is murdered by the refugees. Walker then gives the order to open fire on them. You can try to fight the narrative, but after all, the outcome is predetermined. They force your hand, and if you want to keep playing, you have to shoot. In a way, the chapters serve as gauntlets, progressively pushing you further and further till you break alongside Walker. Spec Ops: The Line utilizes unsettling visuals to convey its deeper messages and meanings. The disturbing imagery is a tool that is used to add even more weight to the story. These visuals manifest in the form of death screens, hallucinations, and the slow degradation of Walker himself. They all shape the narrative in a more overt way. In a way, the visuals toy with us. They remind us of our role in the story. They want to make sure we understand our complicitness in all of the horrific events shown. Because after all, we are right there alongside Walker. We are just as guilty. The game does a fantastic job at presenting this guilt in the form of its hallucinations. Whenever a white flash transition is used in the game, it signifies one of these occurrences. What Walker has just seen is not real. much like this video.
Did you not notice the white flash in the title card? Am I even
Speaking right now?
Who knows?
Whenever a white flash transition is used in the game, it signifies a hallucination, a lapse in reality. The two most notorious hallucinations occur in very specific parts of the game. These death screens can be easily missed, and the first one comes after the helicopter crash in Chapter 12. If you were to die in the very first fight following that crash, you will be visited by the ghostly image of Conrad. It's accompanied by soft static. It's eerily peaceful, and he is nothing but an empty silhouette, an echo, a shadow looming over Walker. The second death screen is even more haunting than the first. This one shows a static and grainy image of the mother and child that burned in the white phosphorus. The screen serves as a reminder of what we did. We are not allowed to just move past it. We are not able to escape from the chains of guilt that weigh us down. Not only do we see the mental decay of Walker, but we also see his physical decay as well. He goes into Dubai with a fresh cut and leaves looking like Two-Face. It's a testament to the harsh reality he faces, and is a physical manifestation of everything that has occurred in Dubai, slowly eating away at him until he is nothing but bone. The developers constantly do everything in their power to stop us from completing the game, but yet we continue. Why is that? Well, it's because it's a game, and ever since we picked up our first controller, we've been conditioned to see it through to the end. It has been 13 years since the release of Spec Ops: The Line, and it still remains as one of the most fascinating games to ever grace the medium. Gaming for me and many others has always been used as a form of escape, a way to detach ourselves from whatever reality we may be facing. Video games give us the opportunity to step into the shoes of someone greater than ourselves. It allows us to be the hero. But when we boot up Spec Ops, we aren't allowed to be that hero. And it makes us question if a hero even exists within any story. It forces us to confront a reality that mirrors our own, one shaped by consequence and guilt, a world fractured by both violence and hate. It ditched the conventional narrative structures that plagued every other game within the shooter genre. It was unapologetic about shining a light on the dark side of human nature. And what did it get in return? Well, as of January 2024, Spec Ops: The Line was removed from all digital storefronts due to licensing expirations. It was erased as if it never existed in the first place. The game was expendable, just like the members of Delta Force and the 33rd. The same can be said about the Spec Ops series itself. What was once a game meant to reboot a franchise ended up becoming a standalone work of art that got swept away in the very genre it sought to change. And with that, a king died before it could ever produce an heir. And yet the legacy it left behind lives on. But even the most cherished stories can fade with time if they aren't preserved. So that's exactly what we'll do. We'll continue to preserve it. No matter how many videos it takes, no matter how many voices need to be heard, we can never allow ourselves to forget Spec Ops: The Line.
Remember back in Kabul, John? Before things got bad? We were talking. About nothing, really. I said something about going home, and you said...
Home? We can't go home. There is a line men like us have to cross. If we're lucky, we do what's necessary and then we die. No, all I really want, Captain, is peace.